Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast. I am Sean Michael Gnitzkovich with my co-host Jeremy Good. Jeremy Good, what is good?
Howdy, howdy. Another week, another preseason week, another podcast. Eagles hat, that's a change. Better lighting for me, a microphone. It's a whole new podcast, Sean. Let me tell you.
You look legit today, Jeremy. You look very, very nice.
I
Obviously, just
appreciate
saw
that.
your Phillies win. How was that, man?
That was fun. Shohei was in town, did not pitch, but it was cool to see him bat. He hits the ball hard. Phillies won, which was nice, but it was cool to see Shohei Ohtani come to the East Coast.
I mean, yeah, it's always good seeing a legend. I was at the Drew Brees Michael Thomas game where have I told this on this podcast before?
I don't think so.
I was at the game. My friend won tickets. It was the game that Michael Thomas broke the receptions record and Drew Brees passed the all-time passing record, which Tom Brady broke like a week later.
A week later, yeah.
But it's cool to see like those legendary moments. Just,
no doubt.
Have them in your repertoire.
Yeah.
But we have a really good episode for you guys today. We're going to do the all NFC East team. We're going to pick a player for each position from the NFC East, and then we're also going to do superlatives. We're going to do the NFC East MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, yada, 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 yada. But first, we got to dig into some news because we missed a few things between episodes. What do you want to get into first, Jeremy?
I think we should start off with I was going to say the Dak Prescott news, which it kind of is, but the Trey Lance traded to the Dallas Cowboys. It's big news, I think.
I agree. And honestly, pretty shocked. I did not see Trey Lance going. If anywhere, I thought that he was going to end up on the Eagles after seeing Mariota's trash play last week. But also, and I think that he would actually be a good fit on the Eagles. But, I mean, I guess there's nothing to say here. I mean, it's a fourth-round pick, which I feel like...
That seems like a lot.
It does seem like a lot, but it could
be... But he's also very young.
It could be an investment, too. Like, say Dak goes down, Trey Lance looks like a god. You have the ability to move on from either one, and you probably skyrocketed Trey Lance's value.
Oh, you know? I think they move on from Dak. If Trey Lance plays and he plays well, they will get rid of Dak. No question. That's why it's not good news for Dak that they brought him in. He would have been a fit in Philadelphia. The problem is he can't be a backup right now because there's no way you can, if God forbid anything happened to Jalen Hurts, you can't bring Trey Lance as the backup. You could put him as the third quarterback, but the Eagles really like Tanner McKee right now. They want to develop him, so it's kind of like the fit just wasn't like completely there. I thought there was a fit though in Philadelphia a little bit if they didn't have a quarterback, like if they didn't have as many quarterbacks going on the team with Hurts, Mariota, and McKee. But I think a fourth is a lot for someone who has been in the league, who had the QB guru coach and Kyle Shanahan, hasn't done anything with him. That's a lot. Now, I'll also preface it. Howie Roseman trades fourth-round picks. He traded for Jannard Avery for a fourth, Robert Quinn for a fourth, Golden Tate for a fourth. It's all been bad trades. So I can tell you that I know the bad fourth-round trade pick. I think it's a lot personally, just because he's young, which he has that going for him. He's only 23, but he hasn't developed at all. He hasn't played at all. It's like he's only started like 11 games from now through college.
And he barely played in college too. He didn't play his last year before he got drafted.
I don't know. Yeah, it's weird. I think it's a lot, but San Francisco also traded a lot to trade up to get him. So
I mean, and that's one of the things too. I mean, I applaud San Francisco to be like, you know what, we're competing right now. Yeah. Trey Lance is our 3. We need room for other people on the team. So hey, a fourth is a fourth. Yeah. But I mean, honestly, it's funny because everybody always says, dude, imagine them in Kyle Shanahan's system. And the fact that Trey Lance was not that in Kyle Shanahan's system, is a little scary. But I'll say I was on the Trey Lance hype train. I drafted him in a bunch of leagues last year. Thank God for Geno Smith, Daniel Jones, and Jared Goff on the waiver wire for saving my seasons. But
It's invaluable.
yeah, but Trey Lance, I mean, I'll tell you this. What I'm really looking forward to seeing is when Dak Prescott has 3 interceptions against the Giants week 1 and everybody's screaming for Trey Lance. Well,
Yeah.
it'll probably be the Giants fans because it is home at MetLife.
Maybe.
But I mean, even if it doesn't happen week 1, I feel like it'll linger if the interceptions persist for Dak.
I don't listen to Dallas radio that much, but I try to tune in a little bit to like some of their shows, and everybody is fading Dak Prescott in that city. It's the funniest thing ever, but
Like
yeah,
the Dallas media is. Hey, you know what?
a lot of callers. Yeah,
I mean, that just goes to show that this preseason, which everything that I've read and I've been looking into it says he doesn't look amazing, which is
Dak,
kind of
yeah.
shocking, especially with more weapons. Michael Gallup a year removed from that ACL, and
He's been in the league quite a bit too now.
yeah.
So
So
like, it should be where preseason slows down for the veterans, and they're getting their reps in, but it's nothing too complicated or anything. And to hear that, I don't know. It's definitely an eye opening move by Dallas to trade for a quarterback, someone
yeah,
like Trey Lance. When you have Dak,
and hey, Cooper Rush, man, Cooper Rush. Who knows? Who knows if I'm curious to see where he lands in the official depth chart. And also, Will Greer looked amazing against the third team in the last
yeah,
preseason game. I liked Will Greer coming out of college. I think just because I just liked like his style, cool name, burly dude.
yeah,
I really hated Daniel Jones at the time, but I obviously Will Greer's out there, and we'll see where it lines up. Cooper Rush, Trey Lance. I'm assuming Trey Lance will be the 2, just because I feel like they want to see what they have in him because they invested this 4th-round pick. But if he's not ready, he's not ready.
it's tough because you know what you have in Cooper Rush. They had some success with him last year
Yeah,
until they played a real offense. I think starting with Philadelphia when they came to Philadelphia, whatever week that was last year. But they know what Cooper Rush is going to give them, and that was pretty decent. So I don't. It's weird. That's why it's tough to bring in a guy like Trey Lance because it's like he kind of has to be your backup, but I don't think he's going to play like.
I don't think he's ready right now.
Yeah,
I mean, hey, Sam Darnold, which honestly, I think if Brock Purdy goes down or if he struggles, I think Sam Darnold will thrive in the 49ers offense. That's just a gut feeling and from like the beat that I've read.
I think he could be okay.
Yeah. But I mean, hey, I chalked up the Dallas Cowboys to lose all of the games without Dak, and they played the Giants week 3 with Cooper Rush, Monday Night Football, and we got smacked. So I have respect for Cooper Rush. It's a little bit of a salty respect, but
Sure.
you got to. Moving on to the biggest news, I think.
OPOY trading 7th-round picks.
The Giants finally got Isaiah Simmons. The person who
Finally.
listen, when it was the 2020 draft, Isaiah Simmons was the favorite or an O-lineman. And I don't know if you remember, but 2020 is when the whole world shut down and it was really boring. And I was rooting for Isaiah Simmons because I'd rather watch Isaiah Simmons highlights, the defensive player of the year in college that year, and tackle highlights. Obviously, Andrew Thomas is an all-pro. I love him. But the fact that we got Isaiah Simmons for a 7th-round pick, awesome. Also, I know he was misused in Arizona. Tell me if you heard this before, but a misused linebacker in Arizona thrives in his next position. I saw in Reddick. Anyways, he is literally the perfect fit for the Wink Martindale system. And this is the thing. We are probably weakest at second linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
Slot cornerback, which we moved Adoree Jackson over to a slot cornerback. And safety, I mean, we're starting Jason Pinnock, who's never been a starter, transferred from cornerback 2 years ago. I like him. Dane Belton, who's a second-year player. I also like him, has ball talk abilities. But Isaiah Simmons can now help supplement all 3 of those deficiencies in the Giants' defense. And we saw him in the preseason game, which I was shocked that he played right after the day after he got traded in the preseason game. He
Did he play a drive or two?
He played 2 drives. He played for the amount of drives that Aaron Rodgers was in, and
Yeah.
the Jets starters was in.
He had that one defensive play against Rodgers. I saw that.
Yeah, almost got the sack.
Mm.
And it is funny. It's worth noting when he was on Arizona just a week ago, he said that he only wants to play safety. But if you go into that interview, he did say he wants to just stick to one position. I don't think that's going to
Interesting.
happen here with Wink. I think Wink's going to put him all over the place. He had Tony Jefferson in Baltimore, which he kind of uses that safety linebacker hybrid. And then he brought in Tony Jefferson last year. He was a little old, didn't really have that athleticism anymore. Landon Collins, when we picked him up, he also played in that role. But Isaiah Simmons, he hasn't really been like, he still has that elite athleticism. He ran a 4.39 or 4.38 and in the combine, which for a linebacker, he's 6'4", and he can rush the passer. He had 4 sacks last year. He had two forced fumbles, 1 recovery, and he had 2 interceptions, 1 for a touchdown. He can be used all over the field, and he's a playmaker.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he only counts for $1 million on the books for the Giants this year. I mean, what a move! Like, I don't care. It's one of those, low risk, high reward moves. Last year of his contract, I'm hoping he plays well enough for the Giants to bring him back, and I think that he would want to stay in the Giants system if he finally finds it a success too. So,
yeah,
exciting.
it's an interesting move with from the Giants. They only gave up a 7th rounder. I think that speaks to how disappointing Isaiah Simmons has been in the NFL with Arizona the last few years. I remember him at Clemson. I know he had, I think his senior year, or his last year in college, he had around 8 sacks. I think that if I'm the Giants, I'd want him to be around the front line on defense a little more. I think the value is getting to the quarterback. I think as a safety, sure, he can play. I don't think that's his natural position out of all of them. He can drop back. He's kind of big for that, though. I think that's where you lose value when he drops back. Linebacker to DN. We'll say they don't say DN, but we'll see if he can get to the quarterback. I think that he's quick. He can make a tackle. Not a bad move for the Giants. We'll see. Low risk. We don't know the reward because he hasn't figured it out yet. We'll see how they play him in New York, but decent name to bring in. Everyone knows the name from his college days, obviously at Clemson. Really exciting player back then. People were excited about how he's going to be used in the NFL. He hasn't figured it out yet. We'll see what he can.
But he had, and especially last year, he's had big plays, and he also even though he's struggled throughout his 3 years in the NFL. I was looking at his stats. I mean, he had 4 forced fumbles last year, like 2 years ago, 1 forced fumble the year before. He's had 4 interceptions in 3 years, which isn't terrible for a linebacker. Obviously, he plays that hybrid role.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when he was in the slot, he covered like Adam Thielen, Keenan Allen, like Travis Kelce. Like, they had him covering back in Arizona, like big name receivers and route runners. And did he struggle? Definitely, but he has that capability. He also looked a lot better when he was playing man in that coverage than he did playing zone. And Wink's more of a man guy anyways. So I think when he's used, Wink is going to use him in the right ways. I don't think that they're all about that. They have all these different packages on Wink's defense. And I feel like when he's put in, and I don't think he's going to get the snaps that he's had in Arizona. I think he's going to be used as a defensive weapon and kind of thrown in different packages, maybe blitzing the passer. There was the one play against the Jets where it looked like he was in a blitz, like he was lined up, he was showing blitz, and then dropped into coverage. He didn't look amazing on the coverage, but hey, it didn't allow a completion, so that's also good.
I think cornerback. I think slot corner is going to be tough against faster players. I think they're going to want to avoid those kind of formations. It's just going to do nobody good for the Giants there. I've seen this kind of. We've seen this kind of like the opposite kind of move where safeties are kind of converted to linebackers. And this way, it's kind of like the opposite, where like a linebacker's like being converted to like a hybrid safety / corner.
Yeah.
Guys, I'm thinking about Malcolm Jenkins was a safety for the Eagles, Saints. He played in the box. He also played up on the line of scrimmage. He played sometimes as a linebacker too. So we've seen it. These guys can pack a punch. Hard
Yeah.
hitters. Brian Dawkins did so similar, and other safeties too. So it's interesting to see him go from linebacker to the secondary. I think.
I think he's going to stay at linebacker. I believe
I would
he's listed
assume
at
so.
linebacker. I think that's where we have the biggest depth questions. And also, I think when you have Bobby Okereke, who we brought in this offseason, who is just kind of an all around, like, Mike linebacker, like he's the main linebacker, it'll allow Isaiah Simmons to kind of be used and utilized in different coverages, blitz schemes, all that. And I mean, like I said too, like you were naming Malcolm Jenkins, Brian Dawkins, Landon Collins, Keanu Neal. Landon Collins played for the Giants and the Commanders, obviously. But
Yep.
I think out
All
of
those
all those
names.
players, especially Landon Collins, like Keanu Neal, like Isaiah Simmons' athleticism, like that's why he was a number 8 overall pick in 2020,
Yeah. No, I
and
agree.
it's still there. So we'll see.
I agree with the linebacker. I think he is a linebacker. I wouldn't even flirt around too much with the safety stuff because I think that's kind of silly
No,
for a
yeah,
guy his size. It's just weird that like every site that I'm looking at for him has him listed as a safety
I
/ linebacker.
know. I
So
know.
like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned this. He said that he wanted to be a safety when he was at the Cardinals a week and a half ago. Then after the preseason game, he said all he wants to do is rush the passer. So we'll see.
That's where
Which
as
I
yeah
think
as,
he had 4 sacks last year. I think that if he's used the right way, he could. I mean, he upwards of 7, 8 sacks as like an off-ball linebacker that's used as a weapon. But I mean, I
yeah
just saw the way when he almost had that sack on Aaron Rodgers, he did plow through Michael Carter, who I think is like 5'8". So that's
yeah
like,
he's small.
yeah. But anyways, I could talk about Isaiah Simmons all day. Do you want to move to the Commanders news?
Yeah, sure. I'll just mention one more thing about
Yeah.
Simmons. The value with him is definitely getting to the quarterback and getting sacks. I think
Yeah.
that's his best abilities in football, tackling too. But
Yeah.
I think so. I would keep him away from the secondary as much as I could. Um, Washington.
Washington beat the Ravens in the best preseason game of all time, ended their streak of 24, 20, 25 games maybe after beating
Oh
the
my
Eagles
God,
week
so
1.
silly. Yeah, something like that. They had like 24 games where they didn't lose a preseason game. It's
Yeah.
still, I mean, it's as silly as it gets. Like they would scout preseason matchups asinine. And Harbaugh's a good coach. Like that's the thing about
Yeah.
John Harbaugh. I think he's a little over. I think people get a little carried ahead. He is a good coach, and it's like to be that obsessed is odd in the NFL. Well, you should be worrying about your guys just getting reps and hopefully they stay healthy. It's just weird.
It is weird, especially because Terry McLaurin in that game injured his toe. That's like also
Mm.
huge news. They don't know if he's going to be ready for week 1. Is it turf toe? Is it a sprained toe? I don't know. I'll tell you what, though. I think Jahan Dotson is rising up the ranks right now. As I was saying last week, I already loved him. I think he had
Mm-hmm.
3 or 4 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown in that game. I mean, regardless, blew up. He was the one who said it's the best preseason game ever. And then his the Commanders' right guard. Did you see what Sam Cosby said?
I did not.
He
I think I saw his name in the news, but I didn't like read the headline.
Sam Cosby. He was the one. I don't know if you saw the Washington Commanders all rush the end zone, and then he was like kind of like joke dancing behind them when they were all like celebrating. He said,
Mm-hmm.
I believe he said, "Who gives a shit?" or "Who gives a fuck?" And he said it's a stupid thing. It's a preseason. It doesn't matter. Which I thought was legendary that he said that. I think it was on a local news interview. So
That's funny.
hey, I really like Sam Cosby. I'll bring him up later on the show. But
Well, Anthony Richardson handed the ball off to his running back, scored a touchdown the first quarter, was like 6 of 17, and started flapping his wings in front of Eagles fans.
yeah.
And it's like you give him credit because it's like, wow, you have you're risky, but I don't know if he'd be doing that in other settings if he had more contact with these Eagles.
Yeah. You're lucky that Santa Claus wasn't there, dude, because
That too. Try to live that down. Haven't
yeah.
done it.
No, you never will. You never will. But hey, you know what, dude? That also gives you guys kind of that toughness allure. So Respect.
Keeps us in the news every Christmas, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I was gonna go to the Christmas game, but that's like the one thing that my family's fearing because the last time we went around Christmas was when I almost got killed by a cyborg, and my brother had a black eye for a week, and my favorite jacket got both the sleeves ripped off of it.
In
Yeah,
Philly?
in Philly. Yep. Oh yeah, that was actually my first NFL game. It was Giants Phillies, Giants Eagles. It was the 2016 season when the Giants already clinched the playoffs and the Eagles were not in the playoffs. And you guys were pissed and you beat us. And it was miserable. And I almost got killed by a cyborg. And
I want to say sorry, but I don't know if it would make you feel better. So,
dude, the thing is, we were friends with him the whole time. I
yeah,
buy a Giants I was
yeah,
wearing Giants stuff, but it was tucked underneath, and there was one Giants fan who was only wearing like a vague off-color blue shirt. Well, not even a Giants blue. He's like, dude, you probably shouldn't wear that here, man. And when we were getting our ass kicked by like 30 Eagles fans, minimum 30. There was probably 40 in
Mhm.
the tussle. There was 5 of us. And one of them was an Eagles fan, but he was associated. So, yeah. And that guy in the off blue shirt, he was just like, I'm so, I don't want to be associated with you. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks, man.
Makes
Thanks.
sense. Listen, he got
Yeah.
out.
He wanted nothing to do with us. The other big news from that, because I could talk about that, so that we're trying to get this episode under 2 hours.
Yeah, what a story, my God.
Oh yeah, we'll save it for another day. Keep listening. Sam Howell looked elite in a preseason game. I will say that he looked elite in a preseason game against the
Okay.
Ravens, which is why elite fits because Joe Flacco elite from the Ravens. I believe he was 18 of 25, 188 yards. I'm pulling this off my head, and let's see. 2 touchdowns. Yep, I got that all right. He looked good, and I'll tell you what, the hype train was everywhere about him. Like, I just saw everything on YouTube, everything was blowing up. Are the Commanders legit? Are they going to be the sleeper team that ends up making a playoff push because Sam Howell's better than expected? Like I said before, I think he has the traits. I think he has the tools. He has a great coach in Eric Bieniemy. This is his first season in action, and he's not like a Patrick Mahomes. You saw him in that one game before he became a starter, and he was MVP.
Mhm.
He looked good against Dallas in his one game last year. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that? Are you buying into the Sam Howell hype or no?
I guess a little bit, just because this is his opportunity. We'll see. He's an intriguing kind of prospect. I think, of course, it's different when he's going up against top 10 defenses in the NFL when the games count and matter. But I think, and I think they actually have a good Brissett as a backup is pretty solid for Washington. I wish the Eagles actually had him, but I assume he picked Washington because of the opportunity to play.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm buying into Hal a little bit. I'll give him a little bit of credit. I just think I gotta see something when it counts against good competition, and that's when I'll make a true make true judgment on him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can say anything in the pre. I mean, Zach Wilson looked good in the preseason.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'll tell you what, I am taking flyers on him in fantasies and in deep leagues because I still think he's a sexier pick than Mac Jones. But
2 quarterback leagues. Listen, it's you're gonna have to do it in one way or another. So he's got weapons. He's got a good offense. He has a good little tandem of running backs. Definitely top 10 group of wide receivers.
Oh yeah.
We'll see about the McLaurin injury. So that can linger. That's not a fun injury, but
you have to let it linger. Sorry,
yeah.
that's one of my favorite Cranberry songs, dude. I couldn't miss the opportunity, man.
Yeah, I'm buying it a little bit, but
yeah,
I gotta see it in real life.
Yeah, well, I believe they play the Cardinals week 1. Is that, or am I making that up?
No, they might.
I think. Let me just pull this up.
That should be a win too.
Yeah, it's either. For some reason, I feel like it's the Vikings or the Cardinals.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it is the Cardinals, and it is the Cardinals. So yeah. So I also wouldn't. The hype might go into that Cardinals game, but
yes,
we'll see. Do you want to get into the All NFC East 2023 team?
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
All right, Jeremy, you want to start us off? All NFCs. So we're picking players from the NFC East, one at each position. Left tackles are left tackles. We're not doing two different tackles. We're doing left tackle, left guard, right guard, center. So those are the rules, Jeremy. I think that we should keep some tabs on this. I kind of want to see how this actually finishes out the season because I have projections in mind.
Yes.
I have a few shockers, so let's hear it.
Do we want to switch off at each position, or you want to hear my list straight down?
You know what? I think we should probably let's do position by position, and I think that I feel like I agree with you on quite a few, so we can kind of just go off.
Sounds good. All right, at quarterback, my guy, Jalen Hurts. It's pretty self-explanatory. I think Daniel Jones gonna have another good year like he did last year.
Thank you.
Not better than Hurts ultimately.
Fair.
I think Dak can have a good year. Not better than Hurts. It hurts us to lose at this point.
I mean, listen, their situation, aside from maybe at right guard, is the same.
Yeah.
And also, another year with A.J. Brown. Health doesn't seem to be a concern. And he finished second in MVP voting last year. I mean, Jalen Hurts, like he put it all together last year. I don't see any reason why he's like. Do I think that Daniel Jones has it in him to maybe make a MVP push? It's high optimism, but it's not there.
I will be. I guess it stinks for Jones for the high ceiling Daniel Jones people.
Yeah,
that he's going against someone like Jalen Hurts, so like that he is working against him in the case, which not great for Daniel Jones.
I think any reasonable football fan, especially because listen, even though no matter what your belief in Daniel Jones is, that he doesn't have the O-line, he doesn't have the weapons. So even if you think that Daniel Jones in an isolated situation is better, which I don't know. I couldn't really tell you. Jalen Hurts looked amazing last year. Daniel Jones looked much better, but he didn't have that explosiveness that Jalen Hurts still had. I think it wasn't like he was always launching the ball down the field, but he had that ability.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, do you want to rank them? Just like a quick rank. We don't have to go into it, but how would you rank them?
Hurts, Dak, Jones, but maybe not that far behind Dak, depending on if Dak is Dak and his usual self, and then Hal, I think.
Yeah.
What would you have? That except swapped with Dak?
Yeah, I would have Jones swapped with Dak, but I think it's also important to note that this time last year, I feel like we would have both picked Dak.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Jalen Hurts had that monumental jump last year, but he wasn't there. Everybody saw it coming with the improvements to the team.
Yeah.
But I think people would still say Dak last year. I know I would have said Dak last year.
Me too.
So,
no doubt.
I mean, that just goes to show how much things can change in one season. And I really do think, especially projecting, Daniel Jones, the way he's looked in preseason, I've been over this before, like literally looks perfect in preseason this year. Last year, he looked like he should probably be cut, but they had too much invested in him.
Right.
And obviously, the weapons around him are vastly improved. So,
yeah,
yeah.
Go ahead. No, but for just as much as Jalen Hurts went, skyrocketed last year, Dak did the opposite. So like his play went down. So like it was it really showed the difference between those two. Yeah. And I think Daniel Jones being able to creep up in number 2 conversation there because of how badly Dak was last year.
And I do want to give Dak a little, he came back from injury mid-season too. So, yeah. I mean, that probably had something to do with his pretty abysmal play, but
possibly.
Yeah, possibly. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but
okay.
Daniel Jones number 2. Good. I like that. Running back.
I have Saquon. He's the most talented running back. I don't know if we'll ever see. There he is.
Yeah, there he is, dude.
Funko Saquon.
Every time that Saquon Barker has a big play, I actually pass this around the entire room when we're watching the game. And
I
we
was
have, well, thank God we don't have any Eagles fans. We do have a lot of Vikings fans and like
okay.
Saints fans, surprisingly, that come to our football Sundays. Obviously, the Giants are always on the big screen, but everybody has to kiss Saquon. That's how we keep the party going. And
I have Saquon as my running back. I think that he is easily the most talented in the NFC East. I don't think we'll ever see Saquon like we did see him at Penn State in his first year in the NFL because of injuries. He's when healthy, he's still very, very give him a healthy season. He's still very, very productive, and I think smarter than when he sort of has a better idea of like not getting hit as much, protecting himself as a running back, yada yada yada. Pollard is behind him. The Eagles have a committee thing going, so I don't know. I think they'll all be productive. We'll see. Brian Robinson could be a little sneaky pick in this kind of thing, but I think talent wise, I think right now, if it is a healthy Saquon, I'm going to take him at running back.
Yeah, I think Saquon, being the freak athlete that he is, 2 years ago, coming off the ACL, he looked like a shell of himself. He looked awful. I still believed in him. And last year, he was probably the closest to his rookie season. He was definitely the closest to his rookie season he's ever been. And I think that he's just going to improve on that this year. Now he's going to be 2 years removed from the ACL. Our offensive line, I don't see how it could get much worse. It looks better in preseason. And also, we actually have offensive weapons. Like, for the first half of the season last year, we ran our offense through Saquon Barkley. He was our entire offense. I love Tony Pollard. I don't think you could run an entire offense through Tony Pollard right now.
It'll be interesting to see Tony Pollard get Zeke's touches this year too.
Yeah,
get a full load. I think he's a talented player. He's done well in Dallas the last few years as the number 2 who had better numbers than Zeke last year, even as a number 2.
Yeah,
it'll be interesting seeing Pollard with a full load though.
Not to mention Zeke had like 12 rushing touchdowns last year, and I mean, I think Deuce Vaughn will get some of those. Maybe Ronald Jones, who knows? But Tony Pollard is definitely the bigger back compared to Deuce Vaughn. So I could see. I think it wouldn't be shocking to see Tony Pollard have better numbers this season than Saquon, but I think Saquon in his role, especially because I think this year we'll have more passing options.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it'll also look better in the opportunities that he gets. Now that there's that extra threat, like you have to respect, it's not just Darius Slayton and Richie James. And, I bring up Richie. I mean, Jesus Christ, I can't believe Richie James was one of our top receivers last year. Like, that's just like my optimism just through the roof. But continue.
I think that if you're the Giants, I kind of think the opposite. I think the Giants might rely more on Saquon if the offense doesn't get going with Daniel Jones, because we've seen that before. We know that Dak can score and move the ball with his arm pretty decently when he's up to it.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones not as much, so I think that if that's the case, if the Giants somehow can't move the ball, they know they have 26 there.
Yeah.
I think that you get statistically, it's hard to say. I'm still sticking with Saquon there. Are we 2 for 2?
We're 2 for 2. We're 2 for 2. Okay. All right, wide receiver 1. Who you got here?
Wide receiver 1. I have my young one, my champion, AJ Brown. I'll go through all 3. At 2,
yeah, let's do all 3. Yeah,
I have CeeDee Lamb, and at 3, I have Devontae Smith.
Right.
I think that. Well, yeah, you go. Let me hear your 3.
Yeah, let me. Yeah, I do want to say my 3, and then because they're pretty similar. 1, I do have AJ Brown there, but honestly, I think that CeeDee Lamb's talent gap between his wide receiver 2 is better. I think that CeeDee Lamb is going to be wide receiver 1 in the NFC East this year.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Dude, I'm just saying. I love Brandon Cooks. I think Devonta Smith is a closer two by far. I feel like Eagles are 1A, 1B with AJ Brown, Devonta Smith.
Oh, I see what you
Yeah.
mean.
So I think
Oh,
that CeeDee Lamb's production is going to be better than AJ Brown. So I would have CeeDee Lamb as wide receiver 1 this year, AJ Brown wide receiver 2, and this is where I'm going to get a little funky.
I saw this. Okay,
I know, but I'm just telling you, I know. Numbers, stats. I'm looking at projections. I'm looking into my crystal ball. And in that crystal ball, I see Jahan Dotson? What? As my wide receiver 3? Yes. I know I've been on the Jahan Dotson hype train, which I've seen him when healthy last year. He looked amazing. Now with Terry McLaurin's toe injury, he's been like literally in sync with Sam Howell all preseason. Like it's shown throughout everything. I think that Jahan Dotson, I think he might be the 1A, 1B with Terry McLaurin this year. And I think it'll be a closer 1A, 1B than Devonta Smith. And I do not, I don't doubt that Devonta Smith has a better year than Jahan Dotson, but
okay.
I can see it. I want to get weird with it, and I can see it happening. So I'm just going to put it down here. If it's wrong, most people won't remember it. If it's right, I will shove it down everybody's throat. So Jahan Dotson, my wide receiver 3.
Something like that. I like Dotson a lot. He had a great year last year when healthy. He is a threat at it. He can play outside. He can play slot. Devontae Smith's just a much better player than him.
Yeah.
It's just like just talent wise, production wise, ability. I see. I like that you threw that out there. It makes it a little interesting, no doubt.
Yeah.
Dotson, I like that. Dotson's a good player.
Yeah. I
So
think
we're
that
pretty.
there's. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, go ahead. No, you go.
Well, the thing is that like I don't think there's any argument. Like AJ Brown, CeeDee Lamb, obviously top 2.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a conversation for Terry McLaurin, especially if he was fully healthy. I mean,
Mhm.
he's had Carson Wentz, Taylor Heineke, a little bit of Ryan Fitzpatrick, and he's had consistently like 1,000, 1,100 yard seasons.
Yeah.
For some reason, I feel like Sam Howell's going to be a better passer than all of those guys.
Maybe.
I mean, I really like Ryan Fitzpatrick when he was there for. No, wait, he didn't even play at all, did he? Isn't that when he hurt his ribs?
It's hard to follow with him.
Yeah, but regardless, I think Terry McLaurin could be that 3, but I feel Jahan Dotson breaking out with them limiting Terry McLaurin this year. I think that he could be that wide receiver 1. Also in Eric Bieniemy's system, I see him as that kind of like speedy, shifty. He's not Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill-esque. You know, like he's got that ability. And like I was saying last episode, he has the contested catch ability, and he also has that separation ability. I see him being a safety blanket for Sam Howell in those short, quick routes with that separation. But I could also see him getting that separation downfield. I could see him like surprisingly having contested catches in the red zone. Like I see Jahan Dotson elevating his game where this might sound crazy to any casual, but if you dig into it, and it might sound crazy for me. I mean, I feel a little crazy saying it, but
you should.
I know. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Just the receivers in general.
I agree with McLaurin. I think you can put him in there. I wish he had a better arm throwing to him throughout his career, but he's made the best. He's done a pretty good job making the best of it ever since getting to the NFL from Ohio State. Yeah, nothing else really. I see Dotson, so I'll go to tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It came down to 2 guys, Goddard and Waller. Darren Waller on the Giants. The reason why I went with Goddard is because he has been healthy the last 2 years, and Waller hasn't. So I prioritize health of these kind of. So I got to see it from guys. I got to see it if they're a rookie. I got to see it after injury. They have to prove it. They have to prove it again, kind of thing. So that's why I went with Goddard. Goddard's also really reliable. Like, he kind of gets punished for being in this. It's a good problem to have for the Eagles, but he gets kind of punished because, like, he's definitely, in my opinion, top 5 tight end, but you're never going to hear his name because, like, you're always hearing AJ, you're hearing Devontae Smith and whatnot. And then you go to Baltimore and they have no one to throw to besides, like, for
Mark
the last few
Andrews.
years, besides Mark Andrews. So, like,
Yeah.
of course, you're going to hear his name. So that's why I went with Goddard. Waller, he could. I could see at the end of the season if he did. I could see it. He would have to stay healthy and get back into just regular week in week out football for him, which has been a struggle the last few years. But I could see it if it were Waller at the end of the year, wouldn't surprise me. But for now, I have Goddard.
I will. Let me ask you this before I get. If Darren Waller is healthy the entire season, who do you think has a better season?
Is Goddard healthy too?
Yeah. Darren Waller, Dallas Goddard, completely healthy, 17 games piece.
I think I would need to know his usage and his targets per game. If it's a lot, like I think it could be in New York with Daniel Jones, maybe Waller. I still think with a healthy Goddard too and Hurts, that's still too much of a ideal situation to pick. But I guess to make it interesting target wise, assuming what I assume with the Giants offense going to Waller a lot, I'll pick Waller in that situation, I guess.
I guess. Okay. Wasn't it? You had to throw the I guess on there. I get it.
It's just tough because, like, Hurts and Goddard, like, they're still such a strong duo. Like, I don't know. It's like it's nothing.
I love Dallas
It's nothing against Waller. That situation. It's just like what they've established so far, what they can grow upon in Philadelphia with Hurts and Goddard. I think sky's the limit with those two.
Yeah. I'll tell you this.
Yes.
When I was watching, I believe it was the Pat McAfee show, working out, I get the update, Darren Waller's been traded to the Giants. I was ecstatic. And then I get a little bit dialed back because I was literally watching nonstop to see if Kenny Golladay would sign to the Giants. And that sucked. But Kenny Golladay didn't. It sucked royally. Thank God I didn't hop on that bandwagon and get that jersey. But Darren Waller, and the reason why I limited my expectations, it's not because of his athleticism. It's obviously just the injuries concern. He's been used well in preseason, and also not just used well. He looks like he's been said. I've said this before. Joe Shane literally said that he's like the receiver one, essentially. I mean, we saw him in preseason in that limited time. He lined up as a receiver. He lined up out wide. I think he's going to be lined up all around the field. I think he's going to be lined up tight. I think he's going to go out wide. He was targeted 4 times in that one drive with the starters. In preseason, he outproduced in reception and target-wise by 10 or 15 targets to the next person. I mean, Darren Waller is going to be the receiver one when healthy, when on the field. So I could see him honestly having tight end 2, having that second year where he broke out. I believe it was 2021 or 2020 when he had 1,200 receiving yards. I mean, if he's healthy the whole year, I easily see him having 1,200 receiving yards. I just think he's going to have that.
Wow, that's a lot.
I think he's going to have that big of a role in the offense. Just from everything I've seen, I can easily and comfortably say that. That's just not just as a Giants homer. That's as somebody who is a fantasy football lover and is analyzing production and target share and whatnot, and just a football lover. And I am so excited about Darren Waller. But like you said, dude, I keep knocking on all the freaking wood I have because I want to see what. I don't want to be saying imagine, and I'm not that one. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But I'm just hoping. Fingers crossed. I think Darren Waller above and beyond. But anyways. You want to move on? Do you have anything other tight end things you would like to mention? Or
no, I can see it be most likely being Goddard, but Waller's definitely relevant for sure. Yeah. Left tackle, your guy, Andrew Thomas. Some competition maybe with Mailata, but otherwise I think it's Thomas's. I think Mailata can get a little lazy with some techniques throughout the season. But he picked it up towards the middle to end of last year. But I have
Yeah.
Andrew Thomas, Mailata second there, but I don't think it's pretty arguable left tackle.
Yeah, and I'm glad. I thought you were going to say Mailata, but I mean, Andrew Thomas was an All-Pro last year, second team,
Mm-hmm.
should have been first team. Um, I mean, Andrew, yeah, he let up a few sacks, but like that was with a terrible O line, and but he was, other than that, perfect. Like Andrew Thomas, I would say every year at this trajectory could go for the number one left tackle in the entire league, the number one O
Mm-hmm.
lineman in the entire league. I love Andrew Thomas. I'm glad we picked him over Isaiah Simmons. I'm glad we have him now. But yeah, and I was also I don't know if you ever care about PFF, but I do, because honestly, I'm not looking at these plays play in, play out. Obviously, I notice when something goes drastically wrong. He did end up with a 89.1 grade, and I love Jordan Mailata. 76.5. That's 13 points lower, dude.
Yeah, I think PFF is kind of stupid. I always tell people I like them when they give me the stats I want, and then otherwise, the truth about PFF is sometimes they have good stuff, they have good ideas, and a lot of times it's like they're kind of reaching at different stats that are pretty odd, in my opinion.
Well, they project different things. They try to
Yeah,
like put them in isolated situations, but that's, it's not an isolated situation.
right.
You're in the battlefield. And also they like grade like their sacks wrong. Like I think Leonard Williams had like 6 sacks on PFF, and he had 2.5, or maybe it was like 4 or 2.5, based on every other
Yeah,
scoring. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I love Jordan Mailata. Obviously, even when we met him, I will bring it up. When me and Jeremy
yes.
met Jordan Mailata, he said in a New Zealand accent, he goes, "Well, he's pretty good. He's more technical, and I'm more of a mauler." But yeah.
It's Aussie.
Dude, I said it was Australian. You said it was New Zealand, I thought, last time.
No, check the tape. I swear to God.
Check the that's fair.
Yeah,
Damn it.
it also sounded British what you said, but that's okay.
Yeah, dude, I'm terrible with accent.
I'll
Well,
go to. Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll go to left guard, Landon Dickerson. I don't think I'm leaving anybody out. He's every year he grades out really well. He's been great against. He's been a monster against the run, great against pass. He's a big body at that left guard spot. He kind of has a knack for getting minor injuries throughout games, but he usually comes back. Uh, so I have him at left guard. I don't think I'm missing anybody out of the 4. Who do you have?
so this is somebody who is a left guard this season, and I believe was a right tackle last season, or a left tackle last season. Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith is being
Oh,
moved to
Dallas.
left guard, and I know he was your breakout player
Yes.
last week. I know one of his biggest things, and the thing is, he wasn't picked as a rookie to play tackle. So it was his rookie season, gets moved to tackle. He's picked to play guard, and he played pretty well for a rookie. His biggest knock is that he had, I think it was 13 sacks allowed, which was first for tackles. But Landon Dickerson actually, 13 penalties, and Landon Dickerson actually had 14 sacks.
Yeah.
Sacks was different, but as a guard, I feel like you don't allow as many sacks as tackles, because you don't have those edge rushers coming off.
I think the penalties too. I'd want to see where those penalties happened, because I remember there were a lot of penalties that happened in games with Landon where the game was already decided. / it didn't really hurt them. It was just like a 5. So like, yeah, you want to cut down that, but there's penalties, and then there's like, you got to look at the like game clip. And it didn't seem like the Eagles were ever hurting because of Landon, because they won 14 games
Yeah.
last. You know what I mean? So like, it's interesting point. I think I'll still stick with Landon because he's been doing it too. I think I value more just guys who have been there longer, who've done people who've switched positions this year. Because I do think I think Smith could be good at left guard this year too for them. Definitely better than tackle.
And I'll tell you what, you sent me years, I agreed with Landon Dickerson, and then I was like, wait, no, I remember Tyler Smith is moving to guard, and I liked him, especially when we did that evaluation of him for breakouts.
Yeah,
and I think he could definitely challenge Landon Dickerson, and I think he'll surpass it based on my rankings.
there you go.
Yeah,
At center, this man needs no introduction. He's the best center in football. He might be the best football player in football. Maybe not. I don't know. Jason Kelsey. Guy has started 100+ games in a row. He's always available. He is great as a pass protector, but he'll also run down the field as a run block. Oh my god. Oh, what clip? Brian Baldinger does like these kind of like clips after the games. Oh, what a treat to watch those with Kelsey. Kelsey's my center. Not arguable. I know you're going to say the same. I didn't
yeah,
check the center. We
yeah.
could go to,
I mean, we could. I will just say this: Dexter Lawrence looked amazing throughout the entire season. One of the best defensive tackles. Jason Kelsey was the one center who did
yeah,
kind of shut him down. I mean, the
yeah.
difference between playing Garrett Bradbury week 1 of the playoffs and just destroying him versus Jason Kelsey the next week looked like two different Dexter Lawrences just based on the centers they were lining against.
It's funny too because uh, they have the mic'd up of Brandon Graham, and apparently he was chirping Dexter Lawrence before the game, like the playoff game.
Yeah.
And Kelsey goes, "Don't do that because I have to face him."
Hey,
So
you know what? That's good. That's I love like everybody loves Jason Kelsey. Like
yeah,
he's one of the most beloved football personalities, and
yeah,
as a Giants fan, I can say that. Right guard, I think we're unanimous on this one. You
pretty
named,
universal. Zach
yeah,
Martin. I think maybe Jurgens can make some noise,
yeah,
but of course, I mean Zach Martin's probably the best, if one of the best, if not the best guards in the NFL. They're working out his contract situation. I think they just paid him recently, which they should. He's that good. I never get why these teams hold out on players who deserve more money when they're very underpaid at their position, like Hassan Reddick with the Eagles right now.
yeah,
But anyway, that's another thing. Yeah, Zach Martin, right guard.
yeah.
It,
Well,
not
he
bad.
got his payment, didn't he? Got his money, or did he just end his
I think
holdout?
he did. I think Dallas paid him
Yeah,
recently.
yeah. It's Zach Martin. There's the Giants are rotating guards. You guys have Cam Jurgens, a rookie.
Yeah.
I do really like Sam Cosmi, who also was a rookie playing tackle, now moving to right guard
Mhm.
for the Commanders. But I mean, Zach Martin's like the best guard in the league, so you
Yeah.
can't argue that. Right tackle, we were also unanimous with this one.
Right tackle, Lane Johnson. He has been a staple there for a decade. It's truly amazing how he has aged. He really has aged like a fine wine, especially because it's like you would think that you'd want your best tackle at the blind side position, which would be left tackle. He figured out from day one because Jason Peters was the left tackle. He said,
Uh,
let me nail this right tackle thing, and I'm going to be comfortable there for the rest of my career." They really, I mean, in today's NFL, you need two great tackles on each side. I think Lane Johnson's an example of someone who really proved to the NFL where it's like that's great if you have a very good left tackle. You also need someone who's great on the right side, and I think he's the
yeah,
best. He's the best right tackle in the NFL. I think he might be the best tackle in the NFL. I know there's Trent Williams. I think he's definitely top three.
yeah.
He has he doesn't give up sacks, and he
Yeah,
doesn't give up
0 sacks last year, and he was injured too last year. Like,
right. And he had like yeah, and he came. I forget what it was, a bad injury, and so he's
yeah,
a tough guy. He's dealt with a lot of anxiety stuff in his career, and just kudos to him for talking through it and working through that stuff too.
no, it's. I mean, as a Giants fan, I hate Lane Johnson, but I
Right,
love Jane. Like anybody would love like the personality of Lane Johnson with the
no
dog
doubt.
mask and everything. Like
And
he's a
it's so
badass motherfucker.
he's such a country guy too. He went to Oklahoma for college. And it's like some of these guys like the Northeast. We've seen it with New York, Philadelphia, I guess New England to an extent, Baltimore. Like some of these country guys, they obviously get drafted to these cities. It's like if they can move out and be a little more Central America, they will. It's just funny to see him just embrace Philadelphia,
Yeah.
and like make it his home, raise his family here, which I think is big for him and a lot of the Eagles veterans too.
Yeah, he's easily an Eagles Hall of Fame great.
Oh
Maybe
yeah,
not the actual Hall. I mean, he could make the actual Hall of Fame,
I think he's flirting with the Hall of Fame. It's tough.
especially with the right tackle position too.
Yeah,
And that
we'll see. He could be punished for that because they might say we just want left. So hard to say, but yeah, it could go for him too, no doubt.
Yeah, other right tackles, Giants have a Neal, preposterous last year. He looks better this year. Also was concussed for the past week and a half. So we'll see how he does. Andrew Wiley for the Commanders. They just signed him from the
Yeah,
Chiefs. He played good against you guys last year, but he's still a mid right tackle, definitely not
yeah.
competing. And then I believe it's Terrence Steele for the Cowboys, who is definitely like probably on that upper echelon of the
Mhm.
right tackles, but I mean Lane Johnson is elite, so
Yeah.
top tier.
So for defensive tackle, I made a mistake when I texted you my list. I put Deron Payne in. Let's put Jonathan Allen in for defensive tackle.
Okay,
I
okay,
made a mistake. I thought I had a different number, yada yada yada. Deron Payne is very good, both
yeah,
Alabama boys.
yeah,
Jonathan Allen is special. He's
yeah.
a great player, and he's going to be my first defensive tackle. At 2, Dexter Lawrence
Mhm.
for the Giants. Um, had a great year last year. I mean, you know the vibes with Dexter Lawrence, but he's the second for me for superlatives and for all NFC East for this year. What I think will happen, and then I mean I'm biased, but Jalen Carter's special. He's he's a guy who I think is going to hit the ground running from the start as a starter, and he's going to get into the backfield, be disruptive, be great against a run. So he is my third. I have Jonathan Allen as 1, Dexter Lawrence is 2. Maybe they can compete, like switch up. Maybe I can see a world where Lawrence is 1 too. But for now, I'll put Jonathan Allen 1, Dexter Lawrence 2, and Jalen Carter as my third defensive tackle in the NFC East.
Yeah, obviously this is very tough. It can go a million different ways because
There's a lot of talent. I think the NFC East, not to interrupt, but I think the NFC East like realize that it starts up front. It starts
yeah,
at stopping the run, but also having guys who can get to the quarterback quickly, and those 3 guys should be able to do it.
yeah, I think the logos of the beasts of the NFC East could just be all the defensive tackles in the
Yeah.
NFC East because
Hmm.
we are loaded. That being said, I love your list, and my list is exactly the same in a little bit of a different order. I know you said yours wasn't in order, but I have Dexter Lawrence as 1, Jonathan
Hmm.
Allen as 2, and then I also have Jalen Carter as 3. He
Yeah.
hasn't, and that is a very strong statement with all of the extremely strong defensive tackles
Yeah.
in here. I think Jalen Carter was the best player coming out of the draft last year,
Hmm.
and I know he fell because he's a speed racer, but I think that Jalen Carter, especially
No
because
comment.
the Eagles are going to play him, he's with probably the best situation around him for
Yeah.
him to focus on football and clean
That
up that
too.
off the field work.
Hmm.
I think Jalen Carter is going to have an insane rookie season and probably win defensive rookie of the year, rather. But we'll save that for later. Um, Dexter Lawrence, obviously one of the best players in the NFL last year. I think he was like 37 on the NFL top 100. Not that really
Hmm.
matters considering Andrew Thomas was left off of it. Um, Dexter Lawrence, he
He
finished
was?
the year with, yeah, I think he was like top 30. I think he was 37.
No. I meant Andrew Thomas was left off of it.
Yeah, he was left off of the top
Wow.
100. Yeah,
It's tough. I
after
don't
an
want to get
all-pro season, it's like, come on, man.
I don't want to get too into it, but it's like you would hope that like sometimes like you hear these guys like talk to like media people about the process and they go, "Oh, I went to Florida State. I just vote for all my Seminole guys." It's like
Yeah,
and everything kind of averages out for those most people take it seriously, but like yeah, some of it's like a little loony.
yeah, I agree. Dexter Lawrence, I believe he had 8.5 sacks last year. Also amazing against the run. I know
Yeah.
PFF had him for 9. Also 2 forced fumbles. Jonathan Allen also 2 forced fumbles. 8 sacks last season. So right up there. I mean, I think also the emergence of Dexter Lawrence put the spotlight on him, but he was just dominant all throughout, and like forcing two forced fumbles. Like those are the plays you're going to be making as a defensive tackle. Like those
Yep.
are those big plays. Obviously, sacks are huge. Jalen Carter, I think, can get up there with that sack. Like rookie, who knows if he'll eclipse 6, but I wouldn't see it out of his range, honestly,
Yeah.
with the freak of a talent he is. Deron Payne, who you had in there, which
Mhm.
I like Deron Payne, but I've always
Me
viewed
too.
Jonathan Allen as the better defensive tackle out of the two. He finished with 11.5. PFF had him at 12 sacks. I mean, that's like outrageous. Like, I don't
Yeah.
think no Giant had 10 sacks last season, including our edge rushers. So
Right.
having a defensive tackle, Leonard Williams had a season like that 3 years ago, and his contract
Mhm.
year, he's in another contract year, so who knows? Like
Yeah.
Leonard Williams, I want to put him up there, but his sack numbers, like his numbers haven't really been there. You know, he hasn't been a 4-down DT either. You know, he gets rotated out every once in a while. But in another contract year, I swear, like Leonard Williams, it's not that he takes plays off, but he did have 11.5 sacks 3 years ago, and I could see him pushing those numbers again. But yeah, I think that's. I want to spotlight some of the other defensive tackles. Obviously,
Yeah. There's a
Fletcher
lot.
Cox, Jordan Davis, great. Like I said before, he was on one of my bust lists. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I think he's going to be great in the field. I don't think he's going to have the playing rotation.
He's a kind of disrupt. He's not like necessarily a stats guy, but he's a disruptor. Like he will push a center back 6 feet and have a running back run backwards 3 yards to get away from it, and then maybe Josh Sweat gets the tackle for 12-yard loss. But it was like it's like the hockey assist. Like Jordan Davis should like set up the assist for the assist kind of thing.
Yeah,
If that makes sense.
yeah, and that matters too, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that are not on the stat sheet that play wise affect the entire play. Obviously, quarterback pressures is another one.
Yeah.
And Deron Payne too, like he had a lot of quarterback pressures. Same with Dexter Lawrence, same with Jonathan Allen. Leonard Williams too, even though the sacks didn't add up, he still had those pressures last year.
Yeah, pressures are big. I mean, there's so many guys who I've always said are a step too slow to get the sack, but like they disrupt the play, and it's like that doesn't like show up as a stat, but it's big. Like you have guys who have a lot of pressures. How many of those pressures have amounted to wild interceptions on the other side? Probably a few. So
yeah, or negative plays or throwing the ball away. I mean, it's an
third
important
down,
stat. Yeah,
downs where they have to throw it away and punt.
yeah,
So there's
it's
a lot.
huge.
Yeah.
And then also Mozzie Smith, I would say, I mean, is probably the rookie first round pick out of the Cowboys. Is probably their best defensive tackle.
I guess.
Jonathan Hankins, I believe they have too, but Jonathan Hankins kind of at the end of his career. But yeah, Mozzie Smith, I would say, is behind all of the top 2 of Giants, Dexter Lawrence, Leonard Williams, Fletcher Cox, Jalen Carter, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, and I would even I'd still put Jordan Davis above him too, to be honest. And
yeah, I would too.
Yeah, but yeah, we are stacked at defensive tackles in the NFC East. Is there anything else you want to say about the DTs?
Not really. I think I mean you have Fletcher Cox who had like 7.5 sacks last year, which you'll take like I'll keep signing up for that every year as long as
I mean that's a dude 7.5 sacks is huge
at his age. So like it's deep in the NFC East, which is impressive.
And that was Dexter Lawrence too, who had one of like the better defensive tackle years too. So
right.
That wise, and also just effect on the game. I mean, 7.5 sacks, like that.
Yeah.
That makes a difference in a season.
It does. Defensive end. Now, these guys are technically outside linebackers, but we get their defense. They're going after the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I have Micah Parsons, and I have Hassan Reddick. Both Micah Parsons, he's very special. He's very good. So is Reddick. There's other talent around there at defensive end. Josh Sweat's good on the Eagles.
Montez
Uh,
Sweat, the Sweats.
Montez Sweat on
Yeah.
Washington. Chase Young on Washington too. I
Thibodeau,
guess
Thibodeau and Aziz,
Thibodeau for the Giants, absolutely. I
and even
guess
Aziz hasn't
Leonard
put it
Williams is
together. Yeah.
Leonard Williams is a defensive tackle, I guess.
Yeah, technically
Okay,
defensive tackle. Yeah, I mean,
they
I don't
can
think
line
he's
him up
gonna
though
be.
outside. I bet, but
They
I guess
they
yeah,
can and they do, but like it's. I would
yeah,
still consider him, and that was one of the things with his contract too, is that he wanted to say that he had that
right,
defensive
yeah,
end level. But I mean,
yeah,
you look at him; he looks like a defensive tackle. He
yeah.
mainly plays defensive tackle. Yeah,
Yeah, Aziz. You also have Thibodeau,
yeah.
Montez Sweat, Chase Young, Josh Sweat. Um,
Demarcus Lawrence too, like is
yeah,
no, like Demarcus Lawrence has
DeMarcus. Yeah,
been in a top edge rusher too for years and years and years. He's kind of getting older. He's not as sexy as a pick, but I agree with you. My top two are also
yeah,
Todd Reddick and Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons could be going for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he has been the past few years. Now he's strictly an edge rusher. You know, before they kind of had him moved around as more of an outside linebacker. So I could see him probably contesting with Hassan Reddick to get like 18 sacks in a season like
yeah,
Hassan Reddick had last year. And it's just good to see. Obviously, we're both Temple guys. I was rooting for Hassan Reddick coming out of the league,
yeah.
being a Temple player. Struggled in Arizona, kind of picked it up towards the end of his Arizona days.
And then really
Looked good
figure
for
it out in
Yeah,
Carolina.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it
no,
was one of
no,
the best last year. And
yeah.
yeah,
Nolan Smith too. We'll see the rookie. See how many snaps he gets. But yeah, still a lot of talent at the tackle and defensive end. Just if you have to pick two for defensive end, I think I'm going to go Hassan and Micah Parsons.
yeah, it's hard picking against Hassan. You know, leading all of NFC East, and
Yeah,
I think it was was he second in the league, or did he led the league
he
in
might
sacks
have
last year?
something like that. Yeah, I think if you count the playoffs too, he led them. Yeah,
Yeah.
linebackers. Should we
Yep.
get?
Yeah.
All right.
Let's just go into it.
This is where I think it drops off significantly in this division, which
Yeah.
makes sense because I don't think it's that important of a position. Ultimately, the
Not
Giants
anymore.
do. Yeah, the Giants do have a very good one. It looks like in Bobby O.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. I'd say Okereke. People go back and forth.
Yeah. Um, he's actually good. He's a good player at that position, which I don't think the NFC East has much of. I also went with Cody Barton on the Commanders, who I think used to be on Seattle. I think he was on Washington last year too. I think. They're both he's fine. It's kind of funny because I always hated on TJ Edwards when he was with the Eagles, and now looking at it, it'd be like TJ Edwards would definitely be on the
he would be competing. I mean, he was the bigger free agent pickup ahead of Bobby Okereke.
Yeah.
For linebackers. So he would essentially be number one.
Yeah, I guess so if you put it that way. Cody Barton, he makes tackles. I looking at someone like
Van Der Esch. That happen. Yeah. So my two picks were Bobby Okereke and Leighton Van Der Esch.
Yeah.
When you compare the stats, Cody Barton looks like head and shoulders above Leighton Van Der Esch. I think that obviously Leighton Van Der Esch, his rookie season, he looked like he was going to be the best linebacker in the league.
Yeah.
And then just fell off, injuries, whatever.
He's had some bad injuries.
But he still is like, despite not putting up those tackle numbers and the forced fumbles. I have it pulled up here somewhere if you want to go into your linebacker play. But
yeah, I mean it's not that. I don't mind you putting Leighton Van Der Esch. That's perfectly fine. I think between those three, that's probably it. I just don't see I don't know if I'm missing it. I mean, I like Nakobe Dean a lot. Could he be up there? Possibly. I don't know how often.
And I think so too. I think that Nakobe Dean might finish this year as that clear too. But
possibly,
like you said, Cody Barton, he was really good with the Seahawks last year, and people were
Mhm.
very hyped on him for the Seahawks. Obviously, he wasn't essential for them because let's face it, a lot of people don't really love linebacker play. But I do
Yep.
think every team needs at least one like top end linebacker. Unless you're the Bears
Yeah.
who love linebackers and they signed the two best linebackers in the free agent class
Oh my
with
god.
TJ Edwards and Tremaine Edmonds, but
Yeah.
which was just weird, but we'll see how that
Weird.
works out. Um, but Bobby Okereke, like, there's this thing that a lot of people say is like you don't need the best offensive line, you just want to be right around average, and I feel that way with the linebackers too. You don't need to
Yeah.
overpay for the best linebacker. I think somebody like a Fred Warner does completely change everything because he has that insane coverage ability. Bobby
Yeah.
Okereke, he's got the sideline to sideline ability. He's smart, coming out of Stanford. He was a third-round pick the same year that the Colts got Shaq Leonard, previously known as Darius Leonard. Um,
Yep.
and he played well, like always one of those like mid to like teetering on top end linebackers, but I think that he's going to excel with the Giants. Like Blake Martinez was good with the Packers, kind of took
Right.
a step up. I think that the Giants improved offense or defensive line in front of him too, as
Mhm.
opposed to the Colts, which I couldn't even name you their defensive tackles right now. I think that he's going to look a lot better and probably be the clear cut linebacker one out of the NFC East. I
Yeah,
would probably put money on that.
I think so too. I think it's a weird position because it's all about coverage, like you said now, and a lot of linebackers are having like 150, 160 tackles a year, but it's like
But that's not
100 of,
everything.
but it's also like 100 of those tackles are 15 yards down the field.
Yeah.
So it's like it's great that like you stop them, but like it's not a great like ultimately it's not a great play for the defense as a whole. So it's hard for them, but yeah, coverage is big. Those are the two I have. Van Der Esch, you can I understand that. I get it. People want to float into Kobe Dean, but to be fair, to Kobe Dean hasn't done anything in the NFL, so that's why I couldn't
Yeah.
put him in.
And undersized, that was like one of his knocks coming out. But
Yeah,
I believe in his talent, and I think if he's going to thrive in any defense, the Eagles' defense is probably the best fit.
yeah, he's got a lot of talent around him too, which will definitely help.
Yeah,
Helps any good player.
yeah.
Cornerback. Um, let's start off. I guess Darius Slay is still number one. He kind of drops off a little last year in his play. He's still, I think, the number one corner
Yeah.
in the NFC East. Number two, it's tough because like well, I won't put an Eagle as safety because I don't think the Eagles have the safeties there. But like, I want to put Bradbury down. I get Gilmore. I also,
And Trayvon Diggs. Yeah, you have to. You have to.
yeah, I, yeah, I don't look, yeah, Diggs. I
He
think
got
Diggs is
better at coverage. He didn't allow as many of explosive plays because, like, 2 years
right.
ago when he was like everybody loved him because everybody just looks at interceptions, he let up all those big plays. Last year he got better at that. They still were there. I mean, but
Yeah,
he got much better. And when you have that explosive play with the interceptions, and he did also lock people down. Like he didn't always let up those big plays, but I feel like
yeah,
he would get hungry.
yeah.
You have to have him in the conversation. But continue with what you were saying.
I'll go with Slay. I think I'm going to go with Bradbury. I think I will say I guess Gilmore has the same situation since he is playing with talent on the other side as him. With Trayvon Diggs. I think that Bradbury definitely benefits with Slay on the other side of him, just like Slay benefits with Bradbury on the other side. I've seen a lot like with the Eagles teams where they have one good cornerback and the other side's trash, and it doesn't help either out because they just throw the trash side. Then the number one
Yeah,
quarterback is like he's uneasy and off the ball and well yada yada yada. So I guess I'll go with that, but I think that's more of a testament of how like good Slay is maybe. So I'll go with Slay and Bradbury.
dude, I love Bradbury. Bradbury was my number one pick
Mm-hmm.
because he had that elite year with the
Yeah,
Giants. Shit year, change of the guard with Joe Shane coming in. I think that we were rebuilding. For some reason, we thought James Bradbury was the person to let go.
Yeah.
You guys benefited from that. Darius Slay has always been elite since his days in Detroit. I love
Right.
Darius Slay. Stephon Gilmore, I know we were talking about this last podcast. He's going to be 33 this year, I believe. 33. Mm-hmm. It's anywhere from 32 to 34. I don't have the numbers pulled up. But he's aging. He still didn't play terrible with the Colts last year. I think he's still like graded all right on a terrible Colts team. With I think opposite of him was like Rocky Sin, maybe. I don't know if that was
Temple.
Rocky Sin, another Temple guy.
I think
little,
little side note. I think Rocky Sin's going to be cornerback 2, opposite of Marlon Humphrey in Baltimore.
Really? Yeah. So you know what? He was on the Raiders last year then, because I knew he was on the Raiders. Yeah. But still, anyways, getting back to it, Stephon Gilmore. But I would probably even put like the ascending Trayvon Diggs, because like it was his second year he broke out with all the interceptions. Last year he kind of cleaned it up, didn't have the interceptions. Like coming into his 4th year this year, I could see him be cornerback 1, even, to be honest. Like,
maybe,
not that I want it to be,
you know, maybe.
But I could easily see him being cornerback 1. I think James Bradbury, I think he's going to keep that. Like, he did well in that system. Obviously, it's a new system with the new defensive coordinator. I don't know how much has changed. But with that team around him, I think it's James Bradbury, Darius Slay, and
I think with Slay, he's getting older too. The long sleep, the bigger, he kind of gets bodied against bigger receive. Like he's had issues with guys who are just like big freaks, athletic, like just like DK Metcalf. He's just had issues with the like size. He's getting older, so I could see him drop off a little bit and have a spot be taken by someone. I think Diggs would have to have a really, 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 really good year though to do that, because he's just
he'd have to put it together. You'd have to like eliminate letting up those big plays, still have all that interception. So
so those are who you have. We have the same cornerbacks.
Yeah, same cornerbacks. I do just want to say I love Adoree Jackson.
I was going to mention him too. He's Adoree's he's a good player.
I mean, the Giants, he's definitely probably one of the top 5 players on the Giants defense. Definitely the best cornerback.
Yeah.
I mean, and probably up there with best defensive back too. They have him in the slot right now, which that's okay, because we're just trying to put on our best defense.
Who takes his outside? So
Trey Hawkins. Okay. Trey Hawkins and Deontay Banks. So Deontay Banks, 1st-round pick, obviously. He struggled in the beginning of camp. He was like lights out, like one of the best graded. I know you don't like PFF, one of the best graded corners all throughout preseason. Banks, yeah. Banks looked really good. And then also Trey Hawkins, who was our 6th-round pick, like from week 1. So week 1 of preseason, he like by the end of week 1, he was working with the first team, and by the start of the second week, he was only first team.
Well, there are a lot of good receivers too in the NFC East. When the Giants played in division, I assume they'd put Adoree on
the best receiver,
AJ, CD, or McLaurin. Yeah. Okay.
But who knows? I mean, maybe they do keep him with. Well, I think Jahan played outside and inside, but I do think that they're just Wink's gonna look for his best matchup and see where it goes, because Deontay Banks has that recovery speed, and Trey Hawkins. One thing that like has been very key, like he sticks to anybody. But
we'll see when he comes up against guys like
he's a 6th-round corner. Could he beat Tariq Woolen? I know I've mentioned him before. Could beat Tariq Woolen. Tariq Woolen had an amazing year as like a 6th-round pick. We'll see. I do think that's a name that you guys should look out for, either for to be like, man, that kind of sucked. But I think he will probably struggle. He's a rookie cornerback taken in the 6th round, but I mean he's impressed a lot as a rookie. So we'll see. Let's go safety here.
Safety, I have Cameron Curl on Washington. I feel like I had no Washington guys. But apparently, all of Washington media say he's going to be breakout. I know that he's the last year. He was kind of intriguing to watch.
Yeah,
Um, I also have Donovan Mitchell as my other safety. I might switch it to Xavier McKinney, roll tide. I don't think you could go wrong with any of those three. Maybe I'll just stay with Wilson, but like
I
I
don't
think
know, dude.
McKinney could easily be in there. I think.
Yeah. So I mean, McKinney got injured last year.
Mhm.
Almost lost his fingers, which
Jesus.
is not good. I don't know
That's
if
not
you.
new for Giants players.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason, man, with free time away from the NFL, they like to maybe lose their fingers. Jason
What was he
Pierre-Paul.
doing? I don't remember the
He
McKinney
was
story.
quadding. He was quadding, which I don't know if this is true. This is a little side tangent. Jihad
Uh-huh.
Ward, who everybody loves, Jihad Ward, he's our third edge rusher, you know, just really more of a run defender. But he's like the most beloved and like the coolest, most badass person on the Giants. I remember during that bye week, he just kept on posting pictures of him, videos of him doing wheelies on quads. Xavier McKinney's like, yo, you. I remember in the comment section, he's like, yo, you got to show me that. And then 3 days later, Xavier McKinney breaks hand and free quadding accident. I'm like, oh wow, that's kind of ironic.
Oh my
Um,
god.
but yeah, and there was like a whole video that the Giants put out, like of him like still like trying to get full grad. Like when he
Yeah.
came back last year for the playoffs, he didn't come back till the playoffs. That happened a week before Thanksgiving, I believe. Yeah, that was I think the first game he missed.
Mm.
Um, yeah, and he came back just for the playoff game, and he had like a glove on it. And the thing is, Xavier McKinney, he had 5 interceptions, I believe, 2 years ago. Like
Mhm.
he's an interception guy. Second round pick out of Alabama. When we got
Mhm.
him, I thought he was going to be a first round pick. He was in that 2020
Could've been.
draft too with Andrew
Yep.
Thomas. Um, love Xavier McKinney. I love getting those early second round safeties out of Alabama. Landon Collins was the one before that. We just got rid
Yep.
of Landon Collins that year, so getting Xavier or a year before that. So getting Xavier McKinney was awesome, and
Mhm.
he he didn't put up the numbers last year. Obviously, the injury he missed a significant amount of time, but Xavier McKinney is a captain on that team. He used to wear the green dot, like he called all the plays. This year,
Wow.
they're switching it to Bobby Okereke. They're giving it back to a linebacker.
Yeah.
And Bobby Okereke is kind of like that head guy. So I think that's going to benefit Xavier McKinney to just focus and not focus on calling the plays, but just focusing on the play itself and just reading the play. One less
Yeah.
thing on his list. Um, but Cameron Curl, did want to bring this up. I know that because when you brought up Cameron Curl, I know his name was always thrown out there.
Right.
I mean, another guy drafted in 2020, he had an 82.9 PFF grade, which is like top safety grade for
Yeah.
the for PFF. So I don't watch all of the safeties. You know, I feel like most people they don't watch all safety play, but whenever they make big plays, you know, it kind of just registers in your head. But yeah,
Mhm.
Cameron Curl is somebody who I think is definitely with the Eagles questionable at safety, Reed Blankenship being their
Maybe Reed. I was thinking about Reed Blankenship, but I don't
yeah.
think. I think there's a few who are better than him. But it's also a position where it's like you can't really rely on stats at the safety position. Like it's kind of like
Yeah,
you look at stats to determine how they played. You gotta look at the game tape. You gotta look at the film.
yeah. And also Donovan Wilson too, who was somebody that was like pretty off my radar. You know,
Hmm.
I've heard his name. I'm sure Cowboys fans have brought him up, but he just
Yeah,
you know was somebody I wasn't very aware of. But he is definitely in contention for one of
I
the best
saw him a
safeties in
lot
football.
last year. From what I saw, he played well. I guess.
Also, Sidney Brown, for whatever it's worth, I guess was like the best safety and pass coverage in the preseason.
Yeah,
Only one pass thrown his way. Sidney Brown, your third round rookie. I mean,
there you go.
who knows? I mean, I could, and you would know more than me, being
Hmm.
the Eagles fan here. But I feel like he's gonna probably dig in and probably end up as a starter by the end of the season. What do you think?
I would think so. I think it would be a good thing too, and I think midway week 8. I guess not technically midway now with 17 weeks, but I think week 8 by week 9 he'd be starting at safety more or less.
Yeah, but I can see it, and also like, I mean, why keep him out if one of the two safeties? Like, I know Reed played well as a UDFA last year.
Yeah.
And Terrell Edmonds,
He might
maybe.
not even make the team now, apparently.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting. I don't think Bobby McCain's making it. He also got concussed in that last game. He
Yeah,
almost got decapitated in that last preseason game. So he might be cut as we're speaking, and I'm just not.
yeah, right.
So now we're going to get into the superlatives of the NFC East. We're talking MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, yada, 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 Coach of the Year, Most Improved, Comeback. Jeremy, you want to start us off?
Would love to, Sean. MVP, Jalen Hurts, my guy. I don't see who takes it. I think it's a quarterback award. Like we said earlier, I don't see much competition at his level in this uh, division that takes it. So Jalen Hurts is the MVP of the NFC East.
All right. I agree. Let's be real. I was talking to my brother before this, and I love my brother, and he's a diehard Giants fan, and he's like, dude, how can you not say Daniel? I would love Daniel Jones, but
Yeah.
let's be real. Jalen Hurts finished second in MVP voting last year. Like I said before, his situation's the same. Do I think that Daniel Jones, Dak Prescott have it in them? Yeah, but the only person who I feel like anybody, I think he's the second odds-on favorite to win MVP this year is Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Like that's the if you want to think with your head here, yeah, Jalen Hurts. Anything else on that? I feel like that's pretty unanimous.
Not much to say,
Yeah,
honestly. Offensive Player of the Year. It's tough because it's like, well, you'd pick Hurts again, but you don't want to. You can't.
yeah,
Really
you got to mix it up.
so like it's tough. I guess I'd have to go to the reason why the big. I will be honest. Saquon's not awful, but I think that if I'm going Hurts, that would mean that AJ Brown probably had another roughly 1,500 yards, double-digit touchdown. So I would go with AJ Brown in that situation. But maybe Saquon. I mean, he's relevant, you know.
And I'll tell you this: even though I said CeeDee Lamb might be the wide receiver one, I think there's a higher chance that AJ Brown has an offensive player of the year campaign just because of what they did last year, and also like I think that he has more to his game. But yeah, Saquon Barkley is mine. I just think Saquon Barkley is still the best offensive player on the Giants outside of maybe Andrew Thomas. And you haven't really seen his receiving ability as much as you should. Like obviously like people know like he gets receptions. I think this year when he does come out of the backfield on passing plays with everybody else, like he might have more wide open lanes too. Like that, it's not going to be like we're not going to be targeting Saquon Barkley, but like if you read the progression and people are all over draping over Jalen Hyatt going deep and Darren Waller going across the middle, and then Paris Campbell is an upgrade. Saquon Barkley might be getting more of those receptions coming out of the backfield just from open lanes, from having everybody else covering all those other weapons and leaning towards those weapons. So anyways, yeah, Saquon Barkley, I keep knocking him over. He is my offensive player of the year. But like I said, I could see AJ Brown, but I really, is CD in that conversation? Maybe. I don't really see anybody else. And I would say that, I did say before it would be a huge fluke, but I think there's a big year coming out of Darren Waller. And I know that sounds crazy to most people. Like Travis Kelce hasn't gotten Offensive Player of the Year, and he's had like the best tight end seasons of all time in his career. Probably but I think out of the NFC East, I am not ruling it out that he could have one of the most prolific seasons out of NFC skill players.
Sure. For comeback player, Chase Young, he's been injured. He's someone who, if stays healthy, I think is double-digit sacks easily. It's just about staying healthy. So for me, he is comeback player.
Yeah, I wanted to say Chase Young too. Because I think if Chase Young comes back and he's like his rookie season, Chase Young, he's a prospect. Chase Young coming out of the 2020 draft. There's no way anybody else takes it just because he's been out the past
Yeah.
2 seasons. But he's still dealing with an injury, I believe. So that's the one thing I'm a little bit concerned with.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I like Chase Young.
Who do you go then if you're not?
Oh, I'm going Darren Waller. Darren,
Okay.
I know.
Oh, good one.
I've been all over it, and you could say, I mean, he only had 388 yards last year, and I'm talking about him having 1,200 yards. You know, that's 3 times the yards, and I think that it's easily possible. I think DeMar Hamlin's gonna probably actually win it just because he's alive. But Darren Waller, if he does put up like a prolific season too, like I see happening, I'm hoping. Like I'm not getting my hopes too high up, but I'm reading the tea leaves, and I think he's gonna have that, which is rare because he's 30 years old, over the 30-year mark, and but he also doesn't have that much tread on the tires.
That is true.
Which because he didn't play that much in the beginning of his career with the drugs and the rehab, but he's sober. Wearing number 12.
Yeah.
12 steps to comeback player of the year.
Is that why he's wearing 12?
12 steps to recovery, yeah.
Right.
Which I think is pretty, I mean, like, rock and roll, dude. Rock and roll for sobriety.
Cool. No doubt.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I might switch mine out actually to Darren Waller, no doubt.
I just think he has a better path to success than Chase Young right now.
Yeah.
Just because these injuries just keep on lingering. Like,
I'll cheat and say for offense it's Waller, for defense it's Chase Young.
Okay.
So
I'll give it to you. And I would probably agree with that too. I mean,
okay.
Yeah. Maybe Isaiah Simmons. Oh, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, that's no doubt.
Not comeback. He hasn't really came. So maybe.
Oh no, comeback. No, comeback counts for like apparently the NFL says it's either injury or you sucked the year before. That's why Geno got it last year.
Oh,
they essentially said you can get it for being bad, for just being a bad player. Then the next year you're very good.
I mean, hey, dude,
which is kind of silly, but like
I love Geno.
Yeah,
I think when Geno said I'd write back, I felt that, dude.
Yeah,
I felt
that. Was it Geno? Oh God, who was it? Was it Geno who said they wrote me off? But I
didn't write back. Yeah. And that was week 1 against the Broncos. That was before he actually proved that he was going to be a good quarterback.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love Geno Smith. And for people who think that was a 1-year fluke, I 100% disagree. And I'm Geno Smith. I think Daniel Jones, Geno Smith, Jared Goff, those are my fantasy quarterbacks also that I'm drafting all over because I like those low draft pick, high upside quarterbacks.
Sure.
And for you?
For most improved?
Most improved, yeah.
Most improved, it looks like Washington is moving on from Logan Thomas. I guess I'll go with someone.
They cut him?
No, but from what I've read, it looks like they're trying to move on from him.
Yeah, I did. Sorry for interrupting, but I did read he got a calf injury 3 weeks ago, and it's still there. And like last year, he didn't have it with his injuries. I know everybody loved him, but
he's always hurt. Yeah, talented when he plays. So I guess someone has to fill his role as tight end for Washington. John Bates. I mean, he was okay last. I don't know. I guess most improved.
I had to look that up. I was like, is John Bates like the accountant for a team?
Yeah.
I had no idea who he was.
I wanted to put someone Nakobe Dean, but it's like I can't just put all my Eagles. I think Bates. I remember looking at the stats and they were okay-ish.
I think he had 220 yards his rookie year and like 178 last year. So it's his third year in the league.
He had 20 catches his rookie year, 250, a touchdown. Last year, 14 catches, 108, a touchdown. Maybe as tight end one, it
I
helps.
yeah
I'm reaching here with that, no doubt.
yeah that's okay. I mean, I think it's nice that you said that. Just put him on the people's map, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also without Logan Thomas, like I also know it doesn't matter if you're tight end one because the Giants have had so many tight end ones that were just
Hmm.
mid that still
Yeah.
put up those type of numbers. Um, my most improved player is honestly, I think the person who's most fitting is Evan Neal because Evan Neal, uh, number I don't know, number 7 pick last year, I believe, by the Giants in the NFL draft. Was presumably like one of the top 1 or 2 picks in the NFL draft a year ago. Obviously fell.
Yeah.
He looked awful in the preseason last year. Played awful. I mean, actually, I think I have his numbers up here. Let me pull them up because they're very embarrassing here. Yeah, they were. So he didn't even play the whole season. I think he played max like 10 games, 7 penalties, 7 sacks allowed, 44.1 PFF grade. And I don't care if you care about PFF. I mean, that just kind of shows. And
Yeah.
watching him, he was miserable. This year though, preseason, he's looked better. He looks like at least an average tackle in the NFL. Like
Hmm.
somebody who people would want on their team as a right tackle and not call a liability. Do I think the sacks will probably still be there? Yeah, it's his second season, and even though he was training with Hall of Famer Willie Anderson in the offseason, who knows what that's going to do? He's looked better. The
Hmm.
concussion, it's not like that's going to affect his play in the season. It kind of sucks because like I feel like he was progressing based on the beat reporters throughout this. You kind of missed him for a week and a half. He played against the Jets in that last preseason game. Didn't look terrible. Um, I think that this year he's going to start off the year at least average. And I think he's going to grow. I really do. I think he's going to have that trajectory. I'm not saying he's going to have the Andrew Thomas like top offensive tackle in the league trajectory from being awful his rookie year, but I think he's going to be from being one of the worst tackles in the league last year as the first tackle taken off the second tackle taken off the board after Ike Ekwonu. I think he's going to be a reliable tackle moving forward, and who knows, maybe takes that next step to being like a top tier right tackle.
I agree. I think there's only one way for him to go, and that's up. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
I think he's too
he
talented.
can't be worse.
He's too talented. He's too
Yeah,
big to not be a good serviceable tackle.
yeah, and you're a Bama boy, so like
That too.
you see him.
Um, I think it's tough to start as a tackle as a rookie in the NFL, just in general too. And I think you need an off season. You need a full season of game speed to get used to it, kind of thing too. So I think that last year was a bit of awakening for him.
Yeah,
I think it'll be a lot better this year.
also struggled with some injuries too. So like
Yeah,
that's
that
just
doesn't help.
it's never good when you're already struggling in your rookie
Hmm.
season. Injuries come in and like yeah, and you're trying to get back on there and try to prove yourself. Anyways, next category,
I
Jeremy.
agree with that. Most improved. That's a good one for
Yeah,
offensive rookie of the year. The Giants fans are going to hate me. I'm not trying to chirp. I think Jalen Hyatt. I picked Jalen Hyatt. I think he kind of backs into it because there isn't much competition there. So I think he kind of takes it because of his potential. I also think that he might not struggle, but it's going to be weird for the Giants to sort of get him the ball when they have other options too, especially because I know Hyatt can run routes, but he's definitely a guy who, runs straight. He's one of those guys run X and Y kind of thing, like just run straight and he'll be a threat. So I think that he'll be productive enough there and good enough to be offensive rookie of the year because he's not going up against much in a
yeah.
sense. But so I'll go Jalen Hyatt.
All right, I agree with that. Jalen Hyatt is also my pick. He said he wanted to be the offensive rookie of the year. Brian Dable didn't like that. He didn't like that cockiness, but I do like that cockiness. And I think no matter what Brian Dable says, Brian Dable respects and also
I'm sure he
believes in
loves that.
Jalen Hyatt. Yeah,
Yeah.
also believes in Jalen Hyatt. All throughout preseason, I remember he started off with the threes. Tommy DeVito couldn't get him the ball. He threw a hissy fit. I remember Brian Dable and Wandale Robinson actually went and talked to him. The next day, he got reps with the ones, and he showed out. And then he continued to show out where he was only getting reps with the ones, not starting with the ones, but only phasing out with the ones throughout the rest of preseason. And then obviously he had that awesome touchdown with Tyrod Taylor against the Panthers, backup secondary preseason game 2. But he just flew by that safety, completely uncovered. Safety never picked him up. He was wide open by 10 yards in the end zone, floated it down there by Tyrod. And then he played. He was actually one of the only rotating starters to play against the Jets. And he was lined up against Sauce Gardner.
Mm-hmm.
And the 2 plays where he was actually, I believe he was in man with Sauce Gardner, and he cooked him both times. He was wide open by 3-5 yards both times against Sauce Gardner, who I think we can both agree, and I think everybody who's a fan can agree, he is, even as a second-year player, top 3, top 5 cornerback in the league. So he showed it, and I think that's why they put him out there. He could be top 1.
Maybe.
Yeah.
He's that good. Yeah.
So Jalen Hyatt showed it. And the fact that they were doing that, Tyrod couldn't get in the ball. He was 5 yards ahead of him one of the plays. He had to slow down for Tyrod's ball. He didn't place it in the right spot. Sauce caught up to him. The other play was just nowhere near him. But like I said before, I think that Jalen Hyatt is going to have designed plays like this to him. And also it just showed right there, so maybe we scheme him open, just like they did in Josh Heupel's offense in Tennessee. I think that Jalen Hyatt, if he gets those casual routes too, where he gets those in routes and whatnot, and not just those designed deep plays, he's kind of struggled with the behind the line of scrimmage, using his speed, because I feel like he really kicks into that gear later on in his routes. It takes him time to build up to that top speed.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if he has those design plays and gets some of that across the middle, some of that quick stuff where he can just get that yak, he could actually be offensive rookie of the year. It's worth throwing $5 on, because I don't think his odds are that high with all those other rookies taken in the first round at wide receiver, and Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs and whatnot. But
I think in this case with the NFC East, I think he wins it. I don't think he has much competition. I mean, Deuce Vaughn, maybe I don't know. I think the NFC East went defense in the draft this year for good reason.
I don't think Luke Schoonmaker either. I'm
not sure with him. So
definitely not. I think Jake Ferguson's tight end 1. The one person who's not a skill player, but I think John Michael Schmitz too, being a Giants homer, not just as a Giants homer, I think John Michael Schmitz is going to be almost at that Creed Humphrey level of a second round center who's Tyler Linderbaum too. He was a first round for the Ravens last year.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be one of those centers who just steps into it. He's older. He's 24, 25 as a rookie, coming out of Minnesota. And I think that he's just going to just kind of to step in there and just be at least a middle tier center at best, or at worst as a rookie, I believe. So not terrible.
Yeah. Defensive rookie of the year. I mean, it's Jalen Carter. It's Jalen Carter.
I agree. I'll tell you, every one of the NFC's teams chose a defensive player in the first round.
Yes. Yeah, they won. They went defense, but if it's, I mean, you have Jalen Carter, you have Nolan Smith, Sidney
Oh yeah,
Brown.
you guys doubled up
Oh
there.
my god.
Yeah, and I honestly like I could see Nolan Smith being defensive rookie
Maybe.
of the year,
Yeah. It
but I
depends on
could
his it
even
depends on
Sidney
his
Brown.
snaps, his rotations. Yeah, it depends on his ability to start whatnot, no doubt.
Um, but yeah, it's Jalen Carter. Like
Yeah.
I've said a million times, he was the best player coming into this draft.
Mhm.
Just on field ability, he might be like we said. We named him as one of the top defensive tackles. He's got the pass rushing. He's got the run defending. He's just a monster. He's literally just a
Yeah.
physical monster. Um, just to shine light, obviously, like Emmanuel Forbes had the interceptions in college. I think he walked into a few of them. Who knows if he has interceptions? Like the media loves stats. Maybe he does actually get it.
Yeah.
Deontay Banks, saw him as more of a project. He looks good in the preseason. Who knows? I
Mhm.
don't see him being like that, like elite. Like he's not going to be Sauce Gardner. He's not going to be Sauce Gardner. Could he be like borderline Denzel Ward? Maybe, I don't know. Like maybe comes out and
It's
it's
a pretty
like,
good outcome for him.
I mean, dude, yeah. If we got Denzel Ward out of Deontay Banks rookie year,
Yeah.
but like, no, I think he's going to be a serviceable and shows signs of being like a top tier corner, but struggles and like he. I know that he looked good in preseason. The best competition he had was against the Panthers ones, who are probably threes at best on any of the roster.
Mhm.
So he looked kind of he played it well, but he couldn't cover Amon-Ra St. Brown when we had the practices against the Lions.
That's most can't though.
Yeah, that's true. Like
So
Amon-Ra St. Brown is like top
yeah.
uh, wide receiver, especially in coverage and elusiveness. Um, and then Mozzie Smith, I think we both don't really see much production out of him this year.
Canadian Football League, maybe.
I love that. What's next on here? Huh?
What do we
Is it
have? Coach?
Coach of the Year?
I wanted to go Dable, but he got Coach of the Year last year for the NFL. And I think that giving Coach of the Year to the same guy in this sense 2 years is kind of
Doesn't
weird.
happen.
It kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah. So I wasn't gonna pick uh uh
Dable.
well Dable, but also McCarthy because he sucks. And I think Sirianni too should get some props too. So that's why I went Nick Sirianni.
Yeah. I went Dable. I went Brian Dable for this. Just because he turned a Giants team who most people didn't think would get 5 wins into a playoff team who
Yeah.
won a playoff game. And that's why he won Coach of the Year. I mean, he made the most with the least. There was other like everybody like Mike McDaniels was in the running, Nick Sirianni too.
Mm-hmm.
People expected you guys to do it. You guys were, even though you didn't do it the year before with the roster and the way things are going, I think that Dable was the pick. But I mean, Nick Sirianni, if he was Coach of the Year, I would have been pissed because I think Dable deserved it. But I could see Sirianni even last year being Coach of the Year, taking
Yeah.
a 1-and-out playoff team to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
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 But I'll further my Brian Dable pick just because I love Brian Dable. Day Balls of Steel. That was the headline of the New York Times after he won his first game last
Time
season.
ran that. Not the Post? The
Day
Time?
Balls of Steel.
Interesting.
Or was it I don't know. I have the paper somewhere over here. It was a New York paper.
I thought
But
the New York
because he
Post
went for
got
2.
one.
Probably Post, probably not
Yeah.
Times. I'm gonna be real with you. I don't follow. I only watch sports media, so I don't really know. I just look for the cool headlines and good pictures. But yeah, I think Dayball, now that he has the second year regime, if they can continue, if they get another playoff win this season with this team in this division, I still see like unless the Eagles win the Super Bowl, I still think that he's done the most with the least again.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt. I think it's tough if you're the Giants because the way I view it is like they did a lot. So 9-8 last year, not a great record, but they got into the playoffs, which is great for them considering the last several years of New York Giants football. They win their first game in the playoffs, then they lose in the divisional round. But that's a great year for the Giants after everything they've done. I almost think that in a way that they peaked too early because like it's going to be tough. Like what happens next year if they make the wild card next year? They win game one and then get smacked in the divisional rounds. Like it's clear that there's a lot of good stuff, but like, are we progressing, or are we just do we have to wait for like the Eagles to go really bad as a team to take advantage of being first in the division, then hopefully run from there with better seeding? So I don't know. It's interesting.
This yeah, so and listen, everybody's like even Giants fans, we're all like we just
Yeah,
have to get the top of the wild card. Top of the
yeah,
wild card. But listen, we have a young team. We still have a young team. I mean, we're starting two rookie cornerbacks, and who knows how they're going to do. But I do have a little bit of faith in them. We
hmm
also have Kayvon Thibodeau, our edge rusher, coming into his second year. He could really explode this year.
yeah,
Aziz Ojulari, also an edge rusher. I think this is third year now. Like, hasn't exploded, dealt with injuries, but like he's shown the talent. So like if everything goes right, if which is a tough ask, but
right.
and I could say the same thing for the Commanders, and I could say the same thing for the Cowboys.
Mm,
Like the NFL is weird.
yeah,
Like right now, we're doing all this. We're talking like postseason, and I feel like everything seems rigid. But then once the actual season happens and upsets happen, either way, like we're gonna start questioning some of these takes.
yeah,
So we'll
yeah. I
see.
mean, there's no doubt that the Giants have talent on both sides of the ball. I think last year they showed it. This year, I think they're better, so they have it. It's just like, are they able to get over the hump this year with not a great roster like other like the Chiefs, like the
No,
Eagles,
yeah.
like but I think that's the issue that you have to look for. Like if you're the Giants, it's like what it's tough. It's like if you're the Giants, it's like what are we doing if we're not getting like more stars around this team? Like how do we speed this up? Because we're getting a lot from like this group. It's a decent group, but like how do we get to the next level? I don't know if they have answers for that. It's going to be tough because they've done well with their new coach in Dable in developing and just having a culture and being able to put wins together with the roster they have. I
And I
just
like
don't
the
know.
OCs too. I like the
Yeah,
OCs too.
yeah. I just don't know how they get over the hump unless like they get more stars or other teams get worse. But I don't see that. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not a Giant, and I want to say it's not just because I'm a Giants fan. It's probably because I've been reading into all the media too.
Hmm
You know, like I am in touch with the media, but I've been trying to like keep in tune with all the other like this is the most excited I've been for the Giants in a long time.
Yeah.
And I mean, like I think I said last episode since like the Eli Odell era, you
hmm
know, like the last times we were in the playoffs. I mean, but we it's on paper where it looks like we can progress. Like but we need to see that. Like we can say all like of course the O line's supposed to progress. That's not how it works all the time.
Right.
So it looks good in the preseason. We'll see. Like regular season's in a show. Everybody thought we were going to be shit last preseason. I thought we were going to be shit last
hmm
preseason. I went to that first game and I had like zero faith in the Giants winning that first game. I just wanted a good output. Wanted Saquon Barkley to look good. And then after we won that first game against the Titans, everything turned around. We beat the Panthers the next week, you know, which is Panthers. But
Yeah, I mean, not to kill the dead horse on this, but like I get it. It's just like those teams that you said like you're beat like bad teams that you're beating.
bad teams. Yeah.
And I get like you have to start somewhere. It's just like they're an interesting like team because they're definitely going the right direction, but like how do there's definitely a hump. Like they got smacked around against the Eagles in the divisional round because Eagles are just a much better team. There are a lot of other teams. There are
We
a lot of
looked.
other teams like San Francisco, maybe Dallas too. I'd say a lot in the AFC with the Chiefs, the Bills. Who am I missing?
I mean, dude, the Giants are not in that echelon at all yet.
So
We're going to have to somehow clear that gap. Do I think that we've added more pieces to do that? Yeah, but also, like I said before, like 2 rookie cornerbacks, that doesn't sound like the answer to the Super Bowl. It
you think that you've I think I think part of the answer would be having Daniel Jones develop into an elite quarterback.
that is the answer. Although I do want to say Prince Amukamara signed with the Giants to retire with the Giants, and he was a rookie when we won our last Super Bowl. So
Was he?
Was it the last?
Where did he go to school? Nebraska?
Yeah, Nebraska. I actually watched that retirement video, and it was.
Did you?
It was. I cried a little bit. I was like, you know what, dude? It came up on my YouTube. I was like, yeah, let me watch Prince. He wrote a children's book. He was on Hot Ones in the beginning of the Hot Ones series.
Was he?
What? Yeah. It was okay.
Well, listen, your words.
Yeah, I mean, he's a football player. Not all of them are Travis Kelce's, you know.
Yeah,
but I love Prince Amukamara. Anyways, is there anything else you want to get to? I think we covered it all. I think we just
big day tomorrow with draft cuts. We'll see where that what happens there. But otherwise, I got nothing.
Yeah, so I think we're gonna the next episode we'll get into some of those cuts, and then we'll also do our season predictions.
I like it.
Going through the games,
and
we'll probably have something else lined up for you too. But thank you guys for watching. If you made it this far, I'm Sean Michael Ganitskovich with my host Jeremy Good. See you later, guys.